Let's move on. Let's talk about teams with question marks as we go to postseason play. Go ahead.
I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are this team that we expect them always to do well, but they always disappoint in the playoffs. Are we going to see that again this year?
Well, they got zinged on the final regular season game, which kind of surprised everybody. I don't know where Dak Prescott is right now. He's turning the ball over at a rather alarming rate the second half of the season. Dallas at one point looked like one of the real beasts in the National Football League as we kind of got to midseason, John. A lot of injuries. The back end, they lost their cornerback, Anthony Brown. Secondary hasn't been the same. Leighton Vander Esch, their do-everything linebacker, he's out with a neck injury. Have had problems on the offensive line all season long. They don't have their left tackle, Tyron Smith, back at 100% yet. They lost their center, who retired because of injuries. And they're not running the ball like they used to run the ball. Cowboy football was Zeke Elliott. And then it was going to be Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard, and we're going to pound the ball, and then Prescott's going to throw down the field. Well, they're not running the ball with any efficiency or any power at all. And the wide receiver core, led by CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, they have games on Sundays. You say, wow, they combine in 15 catches, 191 yards. That's not happening very consistently, and they're dropping a lot of passes. Dallas may have all these wins in the regular season. I just don't know what Dallas is going to postseason because they've not seen typical Cowboy football.
Yeah. Well, isn't Prescott like one of the top paid players in the whole league, if not in the top 5, maybe even number 1? So is Jerry Jones getting his money's worth out of this guy if they always find a way to lose in the playoffs?
Injuries probably have something to do with it. Prescott's had some injuries, but his offensive front hasn't been real solid and strong as they were, as we thought going to the start of the season. The other team to talk about is the one we saw at Lambeau Field, and this is kind of a mixed bag of what's next because what we just saw wasn't very good.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is like a meme machine. He just always has odd takes on different things. And then they had this great run going. They looked at a shot to make the playoffs, and then it all went to hell at the final game.
He dragged a group of young wide receivers into the playoffs or into the playoff race. But at the end, it all caught up to them because they just were not consistent. I think they lead the world in drop passes. As dynamic as Christian Watson is as a rookie, he's had injuries, he's dropped balls, yet he's made big plays. Tight end never fully got 100% healthy. Randall Cobb kind of looks like an old man. Some weekends they have their left tackle, David Bakhtiari. Other weekends they don't. Some weekends, those two running backs, Aaron Jones and AJ, run the heck out of the football. Some weeks they don't. They lost some of their defensive linemen with injuries, and their defense could not stop the run most of the season. It's just kind of a mishmash of problems. And Rodgers has become Brett Favre. Do you love me? Do you not? Am I coming back? Am I not coming back?
Yeah.
Am I going to retire? You gave me my $40 million, and you had to trade Devontae Adams to make that contract work, and I'm unhappy because I don't have stud wide receivers. Well, you took the money, so they had to get rid of somebody. So I'm not going to say Aaron Rodgers is blamed for everything, but I got tired of all the stuff that comes out of his mouth about love me not. It's just like at the end of the Brett Favre era. Mm-hmm. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? What's going to happen? So I think Aaron Rodgers still got a lot of gas left in the tank. I think maybe this was just kind of a tough year because they had problems at left tackle and the kid wide receivers, and they lost one of their top defensive linemen with injuries. But strange season. And for them not to be in the playoffs, that's not Aaron Rodgers type.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, that the Lions were the ones that knocked him out. So for a Lions fan, you got to take a lot of kind of perverse pleasure in that to see one of your NFC North teams eliminated. But really, Aaron Rodgers is this guy that's had this great talent. We always think of him as one of the top QBs, but he's really only won one Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
And how many has he lost any?
He's been close on a whole bunch of times and driving into the playoffs, but they've undergone some philosophical changes as to how they build teams in Green Bay. Prior general managers that he had problems with wouldn't do it in free agency, despite being one of the richer teams in the league. And they'd do it through the draft. Well, new leadership has changed. Matt LaFleur coming in as coach has had a really good run up till this season. This is his first losing season. He had won think at one point, I think he was 33-9 his first 3 years with Rodgers. So I think maybe this was just an aberration of a year. All right, let's